Good Wednesday to you, everybody. Income 651. Welcome to, are you ready for this? Boom, bam, 14. We are 1.5, 2 short weeks away from it. We're finished. I can coffee to that. And actually, it's cocoa. Mm. Mm. All right, what do we have on the cup here? Oh, yes. It is the Vienna cup, or as you would say in Viennese, Wien. W being German, W says V and V says F. So you would say Wien because IE, you put the emphasis on the E, such as Wiener Schnitzel. That is a schnitzel from Vienna, not a hot dog. And schnitzel being a preparation technique and not a food, which I much enjoy. That is schnitzel. Okay, but enough about me and my culinary peccadillas. Let's talk about you and what we're going to be doing this week. Not a lot by way of modular stuff and discussion. I want you focusing on your final phase. That is phase 4. So we just have 2 little short chapters, one from Stacks and one from Scott, chapters 14 and 12 respectively, and then the questions. Okay, so as you're coming around the backside into the home stretch of the semester, that's where I would like your focus to be. A number of you have reached out to me with some questions. That's great. I will be keeping office hours all throughout the remainder of this week, which means Friday. But if that doesn't work, please email me and I will do my very doggonedest to try to accommodate your schedule and we can meet outside of it. Okay, let's take a look at last week's questions, see what we have here and anything that we can add. Actually, before we get into that, some folks have asked me if there's going to be a study guide for the final, and I think I've addressed that before, but I'll address again because the answer is no. There's not going to be a study guide, but I will tell you what I am thinking. I am thinking that perhaps in week 15 that I will do a study review Zoom session in which I'll go over a number of things, and it will be open for anybody to ask questions about anything that they like. All right. It's not that I don't want, focus study. I've just not had real, how can I put this, positive experiences with giving out study guides in the past. And besides that, remember, I'm not here to make your life hard. Okay. I'm here to help you develop as communication professionals. And the purpose of the exam is to get you to flex those memorization and recall skills. Excuse me. Don't let those get any flabbier than they already do, because it happens to all of us. Okay. So let me take a look at the schedule and I'll throw something out towards the back end of this week, because for this, for any sort of review session to do you any good, it would have to be, set in either next week or the week after that, because the exam is going to be during the week of the 27th. And we are, right now, I mean, it being the 15th today, we are in the week of the 12th. So the week of the 27th would be, that's a Monday. So, maybe something like a review session on the 23rd or the 24th. Okay. I will get back to you, promise. All right. Question number 1 from last week, week 13. Consider your readings in Stacks, chapters 12 and 13. From those readings, please list and briefly discuss 2 sampling errors that are common in PR quantitative research. And actually, these are common in a lot of public research that's quantitative. So, you should be aware of this. Trinity, you went first. Let's take you first. Two common sampling errors in PR research are coverage errors and sampling error. Yeah, there's a little redundancy in there. Coverage errors happens when your sample frame. Now, sometimes that word is given as sample focus or sample data set. So if you see that word pop up, don't let it throw you. Okay, it's just somebody trying to be clever. Let's get back to you, Trinity. When your sample frame is outdated or incomplete, so you're not reaching the full audience you think you are, like using an old media list that no longer reflects current reporters. Okay, or it could be a database that's out of date, or I mean, you could be reaching people live, like calling them on the phone, but it could be a sample group, a frame. What are you saying? Okay, this is what we're looking for. That contains a lot of people who aren't doing or interested in that thing anymore. Okay. But anyway, back to you, Trinity. Sampling error comes from only selecting part of that population, which means your results can get skewed depending on who ends up in your sample. It's one of those things that can really impact how accurate your findings are if the sample is not representative. And that actually is the takeaway that I want you to get for both of these errors. Is the ultimate error is that, excuse me, that your sample is not representative of the question you're trying to get at. So if you're, if you want to know, I don't know, pick something. If you want to know what lipstick shade consumers prefer, don't ask, you probably shouldn't ask a group of men unless the question is, what shades of lipstick do you prefer on women? All right. So, I mean, this is, you'd think this is like a no-brainer, like ask the people who are interested in the thing that you have. However, what you find in PR, and you find this a lot in politics, is that people intentionally, or maybe even give them the benefit of the doubt, sloppily ask the wrong group, but they ask the wrong group with the intention of skewing the result to say, well, look at this. Everybody that we asked is interested, and then they make the leap to, therefore, everybody is interested. Okay, this goes back to keeping your eye on external validity. All right, that's another term that you should know, just like that. Okay, question number 2. According to Stacks, what is the relationship between sampling size and sample curve shape? In addition, please briefly explain using plain, simple language what is meant by the term confidence interval. And by the way, you'll see this phrase, plain, simple language, on the test. All right, because not only do I want you to have a grasp of these concepts and definitions sufficient that you could just, explain them without the jargon. Please have mercy on my soul, my eyes, and my brain, and don't give me some AI generated regurgitant. Maybe I just made up a word. See, but you see, AI wouldn't do that. All right, that's why you tune in here to listen to me. All right. Just give it to me simple. Talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old or a golden retriever. Okay, in your exam responses, the ones that are essays. Okay, so be able to put your head around these concepts sufficiently that you can just explain them plainly. All right, Ashley, you were last. Let's take you first. There's a direct relationship between sampling size and sample curve, according to Stacks. Larger sample size causes the curve to take more of a bell shape, meaning the sample distribution is normal and equally distributed. Okay, we'll stop right on that right there. In fact, if you get into quantitative research, one of the first things that you do when you get data, so you put a survey out there and a bunch of people answer it. Okay, and it's really hard to see if those who have answered it have answered it across the distribution. Let's say that, ultimately, let's say it's real short. It's like a 3-question survey, and all of the questions are Likert scale questions. That is, they have the 5 options of, and they're not really questions, they're statements. Okay. Let's say it's a survey about coffee. That would work for me. And you put in questions like, please respond to the following statement. I drink coffee to ensure that I remain sufficiently caffeinated. Number one, option one on the survey would be strongly disagree. Number two would be disagree. Number three would be no opinion. Number four would be agree. Number five would be strongly agree. That's called a Likert scaling. We've mentioned that, okay? And then you had three of those all relating to coffee, right? What you're looking for is that you get enough respondents in from your survey that goes into your database, that when you test your data, okay, for homogeneity, that means an even distribution throughout, or you actually run a little test, a distribution test, to look for normal distribution. All right, you're looking for a bell curve that's something like the green one here on the chart, like the one in the middle. Now, I will tell you, you're never going to get an exact bell curve. Okay. But what you want to watch out for is when you run these tests, and actually I find running these tests and then asking the software suite to give me a visual representation to be easiest, because then I can see what's going on. And if you get a visual that looks like any one of these dark ones, like the sample bulges up real big here at the front end of the curve, or it bulges up real large here at the back end of the curve, like over here, okay? Here's what that tells you. That tells you that you don't have enough responses in your database, and you've got some really strong responses. Let's say that you survey a bunch of people like me, and for that first question, and their response to responding to the statement, I try to drink enough coffee to make sure I remain sufficiently caffeinated, is hell yeah. All right, it's all strongly agree. They're all number fives. They've all responded with five. All right, that would give you a big bulge on the back side of the curve, and that may not be representative of where the population is as a whole. It's mostly representative of this small number of psychopathic coffee drinkers, okay, whoever they might be. So this is what you're looking for. So whether you're doing the quantitative research or someone is doing the quantitative research, ask, did we test the data for equal distribution or homogeneity? Those two terms are synonymous. Okay. Now to the second part. Explain in plain language what confidence interval means. Confidence interval is comprised of a range and a confidence level using 95%. It provides a margin of error of the uncertainty associated with sampling. Basically, this is indicative of how sure the researcher is that the results accurately reflect the population. Okay, yes and no. We can be clear. It's a good answer, Ashley, but let's try to be clearer still, because some of you say, confidence interval, that's if like X percent of people say they do this thing, then it's, the confidence interval is plus or minus whatever it is. Okay, that's margin of error. Okay, that's related, but that's often classified as different things, a different thing. Okay, so confidence interval. Now, I'm drawing on my pad here. There's not a single confidence interval, but the standard confidence interval is 95% split. Let me see if I get that into focus. 5%. What that means is, because we live in a boringly, predictably boring, organized material reality. And remember, for all those folks that run around wearing the "I believe in science" kind of t-shirts. And by the way, I'm glad you believe in science. The root of that word being scientia, scientiare, which means to know, or in the terms of scientia, the knowing. So I'm happy to hear that you believe in knowing things. Don't we all? But I digress. What they mean by that, of course, is they're saying, phooey on you religious fanatics because you don't believe in science and science is their religion. But what they miss is one of the first, in fact, take your complaint to Sir Isaac Newton. If you don't like this, don't bother the pastor. One of Isaac Newton's laws concerning the behavior of things boils down to whenever you see a created system, you see this is a system. It's coherent, because if it weren't, my hot chocolate would be pouring out all over the desk, but it's not. Okay. Whenever you come across a coherent created system, you are absolutely sure that there is a creator somewheres. I don't know who designed this coffee mug. I don't know how it was produced. I mean, I have kind of an idea, but I wasn't there. Okay. I don't know who came up. I mean, this is the great seal of the city of Vienna. But by what means was it transposed? Boy, that's a dirty coffee room. Was it transposed onto this cup? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But because I don't know, and because I can't tell you, doesn't mean that it wasn't designed and then created by a creator. See, because I don't have an explanation doesn't dictate that it doesn't exist. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, back to confidence interval. Because we live in this predictable, organized material reality, we can be confident that by way that things happen within this predictable, normal, created reality is that 95% of the time we can accurately predict the outcome. And then 5% of the time there's a variance that we can't predict. Now, confidence intervals can differ depending on what you're dealing with. For human behavior, standard confidence interval is a split between 95 and 5. All right. When you start involving other things, say in pharmaceuticals, as an example, when they're testing a new drug, they squunch that confidence interval down to a much more narrow range. It can be somewhere like 97 or 98 or even 99%. In other words, this drug, this foreign substance that you're going to be introducing into the bodies of humans, had better 98 to 99% of the time do exactly what you've designed it to do, and not cause somebody to, grow a third eye in the middle of their head, or a nipple under their arm, or something crazy, some unacceptable side effect before it's turned loose on the public. Now, interestingly, the confidence interval for the acceptance of side effects is often down in the 95%, or even sometimes even lower, like flu shots. They know by way of predictability that there's going to be a fairly high predictability outcome of flu-like symptoms, or redness and swelling at the injection site. Okay, so confidence intervals can vary depending on what you're dealing with, but essentially what they are, whatever the numbers are, whether it's 95 or 98 or 60 or whatever, this is what we predict will be the normal outcome if there's nothing influencing the outcome. All right. And so, because what you're looking for ultimately in quantitative research is what? Everybody say it with me: causation. You're not looking for correlation. You're not looking to see, oh, this happened at this time and then this happened at this time. Yes. So what? Did this thing happening cause, or was part of the cause for this thing happening? Because that's how you're going to sell the Cheerios. Okay. You're not going to move any breakfast cereal by knowing that in the morning people eat breakfast cereal. Okay. That's correlation. All right. Big deal. How do you get them to eat your breakfast cereal? That's the question. That's the causal question. All right. Question number 3, and the final question: what are the key differences between a survey and a poll? Why is this distinction important for PR, research, and planning? Briefly explain your answer. Okay. This is one that even if you don't end up in the quantitative research side, you really need to know, because if you get tasked with, digging out the information and you don't know the difference, you could come with a pile of responses. But there's an old saying in quantitative research, and that is garbage in, garbage out. Okay. If you have responses that don't fit what it is you're looking for, You're not going to find an answer. All right. Kamisha, let's take a look at you. Polls are quick, simple questions that find out what people think or are doing right now. Exactly. Right? Polls are like a snapshot of behavior right now, but most importantly, polls do not concern themselves with causation. Polls they're important. Polls report phenomenon. This is something that's happening. People are interested in, presidential figures that post memes that make them look like Salvic figures. But that doesn't tell you that because of, say, the image that's why they're interested. Polls tell you that something is happening. Surveys, back to you, Kai, are longer, more detailed, and ask about people's beliefs, feelings, in-depth opinion, often understand why they think or feel in a certain way. Okay, or to put it in the way that I want you to keep it in your head, the purpose of a survey is to generate data to test causation. The purpose of a poll is to generate data to give you a snapshot of something happening. Try to think of it like this, when you're doing research and you're writing stuff up, so this is for, future classes, it's okay to use news reports, but only in the discussion that focus, in your paper, that focuses on establishing that people care about this thing, right? And never hang all of your argument on a single newspaper article, because that's not going to tell you that people care about this thing. That's going to tell you that news writer cares about this thing, or is looking for clickbait, or has got a boss that's breathing down his neck and saying, you better get us a story on, Okay, now if you find several news articles that cover a phenomenon, okay, this is a thing that people are focused on right now, but it's not going to tell you why. It's not going to tell you what that focus means or from whence it came. For that, those sorts of questions, you are going to need a survey in which you generate data and you can test causality. Okay, so please remember the difference between those two: correlation, not causation. All right, everybody, short one today. Keep on and keeping on. You're doing great. Hang in there. All right, remember, I'm here if you need me. And I'm thinking about you, especially, I know things get busy at the end of the semester and you've got other courses besides this one. So I'm praying for you. And as always, I will see you on Canvas. Take care. Bye-bye.